Hi, this is Dr. Thomas Rocco from CBD Health Podcast. Today's guest is David Anthony Schroeder, who recently wrote a book called 7 Ways to Manage Pain with CBD. It's a perfect introduction to those who want to learn about CBD, the right ways to use it, and what to worry about. David, thanks for coming on to tell your story and to discuss your book that has helped many people understand CBD.
Hey,
How are you, David? Thanks
all right.
for speaking with me.
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you for
And
having
the
me.
perfect timing is you mailed me your book. I got it. It came in on Saturday, and my assistant had called me and said it came in. I was like, oh, perfect timing. I picked it up yesterday. So this comes in
Nice.
any perfect timing. How are you?
It's a little rough right now, but I'm, one day at a time.
Right, one day at a time.
One day at a time.
But I appreciate you coming on and talking about your, how you got involved and how it's changed your life.
Absolutely.
And there's so many things going on in your life right now. I
Yes.
appreciate you taking the time out to spend some time with me.
Absolutely. I'm excited, actually. Yeah.
So tell me, how did this all start? It seemed like it happened. You were trying so many different regular medical treatments, and then this came into your life and really has helped dramatically.
Well, so I'm hyperactive.
Mhm.
And so I'm not looking for the rush, but I need high octane activities to help me release energy because otherwise I'm just bouncing off the wall. So with all those activities, I love mountain biking, going downhill 60 miles an hour. It's a blast. It's a lot of fun. Skiing, martial arts, hiking, rollerblading and bowls, and doing all of these activities. Plus, I've been in several commercial vehicle accidents, being a commercial vehicle driver in my past. I've suffered a lot of injuries, and those injuries take a while to go away. And a lot of them seem to come back now as I'm older to pop up their head and say hi.
It does get harder as we get older to recuperate it, no doubt.
And so when I lived in Los Angeles, I had a lot of connections in the cannabis industry and a lot of people in the CBD manufacturing community. And so an acquaintance gave me a CBD pain stick. And so I have what I call pain events, right?
What's a pain stick? Is a pain stick a vape, or is it what was a pain
No, it's
stick?
like a roll-on for
just a roll-on. Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
right. So I'm in, we have these, economic events, catastrophic events. David has pain events.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first injury, I was 7 and I injured my shoulder. And back then doctors still made house calls and they put the strap on me to, I guess, help put my shoulder down. And that was really it. Fast forward 15, 20 years, I'm having a variety of issues with my shoulder, but I never put 2 and 2 together.
Right.
And so I finally figured out, but now I'm in one of my pain events. And so my shoulder's locked up, my neck is locked up. And I'm like, hey, everybody, you can't move. And so this guy, he said, well, look, check this out. Let me give you a CBD pain stick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've tried everything under the sun, legal and illegal. I've tried
whatever it takes.
Whatever it's taken. I've tried, icing and acupuncture and chiropractic help to a certain extent, but they don't necessarily reduce inflammation. And so I laughed at the guy. I thought the stuff was a joke, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll give it a try. Mm-hmm. And so sure enough, I take it and I lather up my shoulder and my neck, with this rub on. And about 45 minutes later, I go from being like this to like, well, I can move a little bit. I within an hour, I'm like, wow, there's something noticeable there. Within 2 hours, I could actually move my shoulder. So my pain was probably about an 8 or a 9 that particular day. And I think it probably came down to about a 6. And it was noticeable. You can
tolerate, right? That's good.
And so I thought, okay, well, I better keep using this. So I use it probably 3, 4, 5 times a day. And for like 3 or 4 days, all of a sudden, now I'm like, my goodness. Okay, so I still have some pain here, but I can move.
Right.
And so that was the beginning of
Right. And that was just a topical. That was it.
that was it. That was just a
Right.
topical. And he made this at home. I'm guessing it was probably a pretty high dose of CBD in there,
Right.
because I've tried a lot of other CBD topicals and not too many of them give me that same impact. Right. So I found a few good ones and I found a few not so good ones.
Right. It's a definitely trial and error. I totally agree.
Yes, a lot of trial and error. So that was kind of my beginning. That was, I think, 2016-ish.
Right. Yep.
When that happened. And from that point, I dived in, looking for information. Okay, I'm very familiar with cannabis. Cannabis in my youth was my Ritalin replacement, because they put me on Ritalin at 5. And I was supposed to stay until at least I was released from the state, as from foster care. And I fought Ritalin tooth and nail, because it's, this is an oxymoron. It's a speed that slows you down.
Right. You're absolutely right.
I can't wrap my head around that.
Right.
So, but it leaves you, I've never got to the point where my mouth is open and
Drooling.
is drooling. But you feel that way, you sit in front of the TV and you're just like, and yet I still have all this energy bound up trying to get out. And I'm like, it's the worst feeling in the world. So cannabis kind of became a replacement for that.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, during that time, we had to hide it. And so
Right.
because it's illegal, you've got to hide it. And I've watched a 17-year-old who no longer had to hide his cannabis use with his mother.
Mhm.
He was a year and a half behind in school. Once his mother knew, and then he was allowed to do it in her presence, he made up that entire year and a half of school.
Wow.
With incredible grades. And so, I juxtapose him and me, and I'm like, okay, well, I had to hide the stuff. And so I'm at school, I did poorly. He did well. So I'm not a stranger to cannabis.
Right.
And I actually brought a bunch of products to show you in a little bit, the various cannabinoids that include THC that I'm using for pain and for cancer.
Right.
So my
Perfect.
deep dive was trying to learn about CBD. Okay, so what is this stuff? What is cannabidiol? What is this? Why does it work? On the surface, I found, a plethora of information, but behind that information was somebody with a sales pitch. It
Right.
wasn't until I dug into the actual medical reviews and the studies, learning about what CBD is, how it's used, how it hits our receptors, and how it reduces inflammation, that then it began to have these aha moments and like, oh, this stuff is for real. Because had my first experience been bad, had that CBD stick been if it was bad, I would have said, get away.
Right.
There's
No thanks.
nothing to this stuff. Thank God that my first experience was good.
Right.
Because that opened up the door to just a windfall of information and understanding. I wasn't trying to write a book. I had never had it in me or the desire to want to write a book. But I had stacks of notes of information from the studies that I found and from people that I've met who have given me information and who talked to me and actually opened up and shared about, cannabidiol and the various cannabinoids and their impact. And so from there, because that was such a good experience, my wife eventually said, Dave, you've got to put this into a book.
Right.
Because nobody knows this stuff.
Right.
They just think, oh, CBD oil. And I've met countless people who have done CBD oil. Like, nothing happened to me.
Right.
Well,
the thing is, that's what you mentioned is a lot of patients of mine said, I'll give them a pamphlet about it, something for our little website. And mainly it's there for people to learn a little bit. And there's a handful of products, but they'll say, I tried it, it didn't work. But there's so many reasons why it didn't work.
Yes.
because you need somebody experienced to tell you kind of what dosing to
Yes,
use, what
yes.
products. And again, like I said, the book came in yesterday. I went through it.
Right.
It is the perfect like CBD 101 book. Like it
Yes,
hits
thank
the
you.
main points. And I looked, your copyright 2019
Yeah,
was about the time that we started doing this website. And part of the website I did was to force myself to learn about it, because I do medical marijuana licensing in the state for the last
okay,
12 years. And it
okay.
became the forefront, like people were talking about CBD and not THC. And we said, we got to start something. And it forced me to learn about it so that I could understand it, and then kind of disseminate that
Yes.
information to my patients. And we kind of the same boat. I
Yes.
started about the same time thinking about it. And that's when it started to get a lot of press and people started
Yes.
talking about it. But I'll be honest with you, back then, I think it's better now. There were just people, I think, doing a lot of money grabbing. And there were
Yes.
products that were not very good. It just kind of said CBD. Nobody knew what that meant. And I
Right,
think it's definitely getting better.
right.
But
Well,
this is a great read for people. Like I
thank
said,
you.
when we're done talking, what I'd like to do is blog a thing for patients. Like if you really
Okay.
want to delve into something, go to your website, buy this
Okay.
book. It doesn't take long to get through because it hits like the major points. It's
Right.
really written well.
Right. I wasn't trying to do something big, but I discovered, okay, so there's 7 ways of using it, right? There's 7 actual ways to
Right.
use this stuff.
That's what it's called.
And
7 ways to manage pain with CBD.
right,
It's
exactly.
perfect.
And so that, writing the book then opened up a whole new, so now I teach, I educate. I got people from outside of the country that reach out to me and ask me to write articles for them. I speak at a lot of the various CBD expos. I educate a lot of people. And the one thing you said, people ask me, so, well, look, I tried it and it didn't work. So what I do is when they, I pick their brains, I prod them a little bit and I say, okay, so what did you use? How long did you use it for? And because now we know that, the researchers have found out that it takes about a week of continued use of CBD for the full impact to impact your body and to really do its job. So I struggle in getting people to continue using it for several days. I can't get them to have that aha moment.
Right.
So what I did is I came up with an illustration. And I say, okay, I want you to picture in your mind a general sitting over his battlefield. Okay. Now the enemy has penetrated his west flank and can go to and fro and do whatever they want. So the general, in his wisdom, takes a platoon of soldiers and takes them and sends them over to that west flank. Now, during that battle, some are killed, some are wounded, some run out of ammunition, and some run away. Now, the next day, the general, looking over his battlefield, looks and see, okay, I have more men there today than I did yesterday. He sends another platoon. And again, during that battle, some are killed, some are wounded, some run out of ammunition, some run away. Now, after about a week's worth of time, that general now has plugged up that west flank, and now he has his enemy on the run. When you are taking CBD, you are sending your personal platoon of soldiers onto your pain battlefield. And once I get them to have that aha, then like, oh, okay. So now you have your soldiers, you got to put your soldiers at your west flank 2 or 3 times a day because it does wear out. The soldiers will be killed, they'll run out of ammunition, some will run away. CBD is not a cure-all, and you do have to keep using it regularly. Once they get that aha moment, then they come back to me a week later. It's like, oh my God, David, I can't believe my knuckles don't hurt. My knee doesn't hurt. I can actually walk. I can twist at the waist. So it takes the aha moment to get them to do the continued use.
Right.
Because the wrong dose, you're going to get nothing. If you bought something bad, you're going to get nothing.
Right.
If you bought something a year and a half ago, it's gone bad.
Right.
You're going to get nothing.
That's correct.
So
I have some patients that take it, and what I say is, give it a week, keep taking it, see how it goes. But I have to say, some of the aha moments are when they stop taking and realize, wow, I
Yes.
was feeling better. I didn't
Yes.
realize it. And
Yes.
then they go back to it and then they get the benefit from it. That's
Yes.
so
That is a
people-
big aha. When they stop using it, oh, I don't need this stuff. I'm feeling
Right.
fine. And then the aches come back. I've seen that too. The aches
Right.
come back. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe there really is something to this.
Right. Right. No, so
Yeah.
different people experience different things. You have to try, but like you
Right.
said, the right medication, the right dose,
Right.
make sure it's not expired.
Right.
Those are all very important things before you see if you get the effect.
And not all manufacturers manufacture under the
I
same
know, I
guideline.
know, I know. It's not FDA
They're-
regulated just yet.
Yes,
That's
you've
the
got the guys
problem.
who just want to make the big bucks. Oh, here's some hemp oil. This is going to help you. And then you've got real people who actually are trying to make real medication.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And so one of the things you'll see in the book I put together, I did put together a checklist, a fairly comprehensive
Right.
checklist
Yep.
to help people determine, okay, if you don't see A, B, and C,
Mhm.
then this is not going to work. If you find C, D, and E, okay, that's a good product.
Right.
So
Page 73 and 74. I love it.
Yes.
It makes it easy. It's right here.
Yes. Yes. So, and then I give that away for free. You know, I give people, I try to hit the bull
Mhm.
head on.
Right.
You know, so a lot of people say, oh, I tried it and I didn't have any experience. So what I do is I give them the checklist for free and I give them the 6 reasons why CBD might not have worked for them.
Right.
So I'm not afraid to take on that challenge. Well, it didn't work for me. This stuff is bad. So I figure if I can take that challenge on first, then they get some more ahas and they can find out where they fit in that particular place,
Mhm.
make their adjustments and go from there. Now, a caveat, I am not a doctor, I'm the patient. But the doctors that I went to for pain, for help with pain, knew nothing about cannabis, knew nothing about CBD, and wanted to give me opioids.
Right. I was one of those people.
Wow.
They did not do much teaching in medical school about, they didn't even mention CBD. They mentioned medical marijuana. Well, they mentioned marijuana, I should say.
Right.
This is in the 90s.
Right.
There are a couple of medical schools now putting it in their curriculum, but it's not, I don't think it's a requirement, but I think it really is important at this point. It really
think
is.
so. Well, the endocannabinoid system, I mean, that is a part of the body.
Right.
You know, it's like, you know, we have dopamine receptors, we have insulin receptors, we've got, you know, cannabis receptors, CB1, CB2 receptors, and I guess now there's a third receptor. More, that's all, you know, above my particular pay grade, but I'm still studying.
Right.
It's a never-ending journey now, you know, because when people ask me to come and speak to them and teach them from the patient perspective, I need to know I'm insatiable when it comes to learning something. If it catches fire in me, there's no stopping me.
Right.
I'm insatiable when it comes to learning.
Well, you can tell by your book. Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
Thank you.
Really, I'm so happy I got it before I got to talk to you. Because
Awesome.
you hit all the points that I like to talk with my patients about it. Now,
Wow.
where do you lecture? Do you go around the country? Do you do it locally? Because I
So
think you're from Texas. Is that right?
I left Los Angeles in 2019 and moved to Texas. California was getting getting away out there. But I've spoken at like the CBD expos. You know, they've invited me back a couple of times now. There's a couple of various expos. Then I speak locally. I've got somebody now that's trying to get me in to speak with private companies and groups and stuff like that. I do podcasts like this with people in other countries so that they can kind of share and expose CBD in the Latin community. So my wife is Hispanic. And so cannabis is very, very taboo in the Hispanic community. But, you know, when they start understanding that this is not something that makes you loopy and gets you high and gives you that euphoria, this is something that actually reduces inflammation, reduces pain, and over enough time will actually bring health and healing to your body. Not only that, with all of the other things that impacts in your body besides just going after that. So that's kind of what I do now in speaking. I mean, I still work my regular job. And so like I'll be in Orlando speaking at the USA, no, is it the USA CBD Expo in Florida? And then there'll be another one in Los Angeles. So I'll be doing those two later this year.
Great. That's
and
excellent.
But
it's interesting.
It's just a matter of being able to afford the cost of flying to all these locations.
Well, what's interesting is like you like a lot of patients don't try it because they think they're going to get a psychoactive effect to it. And that's not the case. And in fact, there hardly are any side effects. As you mentioned, the couple that may happen, maybe drowsiness, maybe a dry mouth, which isn't a big thing.
Right.
The side effects, or even the next day, there's no hangover like taking Valium for anxiety, sleep, or Ambien. You feel perfect. Your system's still working. And that's what, like, to me, what CBD is it doesn't bind to any receptors. It makes our receptors work better.
Yes.
So it's not manipulating our body like a narcotic does. It goes to the receptor, so now we don't feel our pain, even though the pain's still there. So it's manipulating our body. This is just boosting our system to work better.
Yes.
And that's why it's such a good medication. I don't see any downfall to it. Actually, none.
Me either. Now, there is one thing that I do warn people about that are on medications. So there is a group of people that should kind of steer clear unless they're working with not necessarily a doctor, but a cannabis doctor.
Right.
And so for those who are taking certain prescribed medications that might have a grapefruit warning, so that those particular pills, the grapefruit and CBD, they manipulate a certain enzyme in the liver, which prevent it from breaking down.
Right.
So those people should be careful to not take CBD, or the other issue is that CBD can enhance certain side effects like drowsiness, for instance.
Right.
If you're on a medication that makes you drowsy, and if you take too much CBD, you will be really drowsy.
Right.
So there is a subsect of people that I recommend not take CBD until you get off the medications that you're on, or you work closely with a cannabis doctor who then can test your blood, make sure you're not having buildup of these other drugs, and so that the side effect of taking your life or doing some injury to your organs doesn't occur.
I absolutely agree. It's the cytochrome P450 liver enzyme system. And so the one that I worry about, because of what I do a lot of pain management with steroid injections, is people that are on Coumadin. It works at the same system. So their Coumadin might work better, and their lab testing may go up. But those are the medications you're worried about. But usually it's high dose. If it's low dose, I think they're okay. It's when you're taking it at a very high dose. And to me, high dose is like over 100 milligrams, 200 milligrams a day. If you're taking 30 milligrams, I'm okay with that, a couple of times a day.
Yeah.
That's what you need to worry about. But like I said, there's on our website, I found a study about side effects with CBD as compared to the prescription drugs. And the side effects were tremendously nothing compared to taking the prescription drugs.
That's what I love.
And it's unbelievable. So if it doesn't work, there's nothing to worry about, but it's going to work in most cases.
Right.
That's the beauty of it.
What I love about the cannabis and hemp plant, we have this endocannabinoid system now. Depending on your worldview, some people's worldview is God. They believe in God. God created the heavens and the earth, created all the plants. And then you have the other worldview that does not necessarily believe in God, but in earth. In either worldview, an organic being was brought forth. And whether you believe in God or you believe in earth, that organic being needs to be taken care of. It needs to be filled. It needs to eat, right? It needs to be taken care of. Amazingly, in the worldview of God or the worldview of earth, two plants were created that have similar chemical compounds that the brain releases. Now, in our brain, I tell people you have the best scientists on the face of the earth. Their sole job is to monitor you every minute of every hour of every day until the day you die. When you're getting ready to fall asleep, you know, it gives you serotonin. When you're out and running, it's releasing endorphins.
Right.
You know, when you're excited, it's releasing anandamide. Well, amazingly, THC is nearly identical to anandamide. Just there's a slight difference in its tail.
Right.
The only difference is THC, even though it mimics anandamide, it has that euphoric effect. So here you've got two plants, regardless of your worldview, that impact the body in a multitude of ways.
Right. Right.
I mean,
amazing, right?
why would we outlaw something that our body
I know
needs?
that's a whole another issue. I'm sure
Let my plants go.
Exactly. It's so true. But my feeling about, again, with marijuana is I like when people get their marijuana and it's a combination of THC and CBD. And
Yes.
I think you get more of the medicinal effect. If it's
Yes.
purely THC, I think it's more recreational. But the comment in your book, and I totally agree with it, is what CBD is, lowers the psychoactive effect.
Yes.
And I've told people the antidote to a THC overdose, which
Yes.
is paranoia, you know,
Yes.
you're not going to die.
CBD.
You're just going to feel very different and paranoid.
Yes.
Is taking CBD.
Yes.
That's the antidote. But they're
Yes.
not going to give CBD in the emergency room for somebody with a THC paranoia episode.
Right.
That's the treatment and time. But
I think that day will come.
I think so too.
It will come with enough education. I mean, it may not be for a decade yet, but with enough education and new people coming out, I think we will get to that point.
Right. And you hit that in the book too. Like you've hit everything that when I first learned about it and wanted to make sure people understood. It's a perfect,
Nice.
straightforward read. And I love you had a lot of physicians involved with it too.
Yes.
And I like the forward is, again, from I'm a surgeon, it's another surgeon.
Yes.
Dr.
Yes.
David Allen, which was a really nice write-up about, he
Yes.
agrees with what you're doing and loves the book. And that was
Yes.
excellent. But it's a good research book. It's a great way to start.
It's a good start. It's a great way to get started,
Right.
I shared it with another pain person, doctor in Florida. And, I think her top comment was the top one was like, doctors need to read this so that they have
Right.
just a basic understanding.
That's exactly right.
And that's the key is education.
Mhm.
We need to get people over that hump. We need to get doctors and nurses over that hump. I'm looking forward to the day when cannabis is now legal. I don't really care about the recreational side. I
Right.
mean,
I don't either. I think alcohol is more of a problem. I've said this dozens of times.
Absolutely.
Than marijuana.
absolutely. And, again, there's no hangover,
Right.
there's no liver damage,
Right.
between the two, there's no difference. But, for me, it is a medicine. There's 6,000 years of recorded human history. And through that entire time, through various places on the face of this planet, people have used cannabis. Cannabis was used in the Bible for the Levitical priests. There was a part of their what is the stuff that smokes into the air? Their incense,
Right.
right? And so now I'm aware of a guy who I'm trying to hunt down to interview him, who uses that particular mixture that was made for that incense. He's got about 65 people who use that particular blend using cannabis from the Bible that have now been healed from cancer, a variety of cancers. And so I think there's a thing on Netflix about him. I forget what the show is called, but he's phenomenal. You look at him and he looks like he's a mountain Joe,
Right,
big long
right,
beard, long
right.
hair,
Yeah.
but yet, and it's a tough protocol because it's heavy. There's heavy THC. You start out taking little bits and eventually you get up to about a gram a day.
Right.
And, when you're at a gram of THC a day, you're like, it's
a lot.
hard to function,
I agree.
And so I've done some of that. It was difficult for me,
Maybe you need your next book is about the history of marijuana. It seems like you already got it started.
I'm working on a dissertation that I believe that one day I'm going to speak in front of Congress. I spoke with some people. We're trying to do something here in Texas. So this year the legislature is out, but I'm thinking next year. So I'm working on a dissertation, about people's belief systems, where we are, why we had the plant, taken away from us. But, for all of history, it's been used as a medicine.
Right.
Up until the 1920s, you had Eli Lilly, you had Pfizer, you had, there was a third, I can't remember the third company. They each had a cannabis bottle of, and they had all the things that are good for the flu, good for coughing, good for eating, good for, and they had a cannabis concoction that they used. And then with prohibition, obviously that went away. And my big problem with prohibition is, all of that information and all that data passed down from mother to son to daughter to mother to son to daughter, passed on. And then what we learn is passed on. So everything that was passed on to us up until the 1920s was all of a sudden gone. If it wasn't written in a book, we've lost that.
Right. Right.
And that's such a shame.
I think if we could get marijuana, start with THC, if we can change it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 2 drug, I think that would change a lot of things, because THC is considered, Schedule 1. That means no medicinal effect. That's with LSD, that's with heroin, that's with street drugs. And of course, CBD is kind of just loosely associated with THC. So it goes to, and I think if THC became a Schedule 2 drug, it might change a lot of things. Studies, and then CBD wouldn't be such a taboo, and THC wouldn't be a taboo either. It would change a lot of things. I think that would help so much. I was at a pain conference about 3 years ago, and we were talking about narcotics prescriptions because I do pain management, but THC and CBD came into place, and I was so excited to tell them what I knew about it with licensing in the state. That was the thing I mentioned. And the person was like, you are right on target. That would change a lot of things in how we think about things. Because the federal government doesn't want to do anything with a Schedule 1 drug.
No.
They don't want to let us do whatever we want. And if it's a Schedule 2, then it allows some gray area for us to do more research. And use it more pharmaceutically.
I have a problem calling a plant a drug.
Right, that's true too, right? This isn't made in a laboratory. It's so true.
Yeah. So I mean, I look at it, it's a plant, and the plant has similar chemical compounds to that of what the brain releases within us. And so when that plant and those cannabinoids are entered into the body, they have a huge impact. So I'll give you an example. So the book came about because of suffering from chronic pain. I've suffered with chronic pain for almost 50 years. And that's how the book came about. Now, in last September of 2021, I was diagnosed with a rare colorectal cancer. And so it's a squamous cell carcinoma. And I guess it's kind of aggressive. And so
it is treatable.
It is.
But it's concerning. Very concerning.
I today will be the beginning of week 6 of proton therapy. And it's rough. Trust me, it is rough. But the doctor, I did give the doctor, Dr. Jared Sturgeon, my book. And so he told me last week, he said, look, this is a very painful treatment. And especially because of the location, there's a lot of men that are doing
very sensitive area.
But this is much deeper, further down than this is in the anal canal. And he said, I haven't read your book yet, but I am a firm believer because every week I go and I tell them, well, my pain's about a 3.
Right.
So I'm using CBD and turmeric. So between the two together, I'm having,
Good
I'm
combination.
fighting that war in multiple battles.
Right.
So I realized, as my understanding grew about what was going on in my body with this cancer, I realized that, the first doctor who did the colonoscopy said, okay, so based on the size, you've had that for at least 6 years.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And so then I recall, okay, I remember having night sweats going back to about 2012 or 2013, but only during the wintertime. So I'm thinking, okay, I've got too many covers on, I can't breathe, and so I sweat. And so recently, I have a part of my medical team, I have a cannabinoid MD pharmacist. He left doing opioids and now he's basically homeopathy. But he keeps all his, keeps up with his certifications and stuff because he is a pharmacist. Mm-hmm. And then I have 2 cannabis research scientists on my team. And so one of them, I told him, man, I have these crazy, my night sweats are so crazy, my wife won't even touch me in the middle of the night. And he says, oh, I'm so glad you told me. So basically what you're having, you have cytokine syndrome.
Right.
I forget the second word. But it's a cytokine storm, cytokine storm.
Yeah, it's cytokine storm, right. Your body is just inflaming itself.
What he did is, so he turned me on to cannabidiols acid, CBGA. And so my understanding is this is the mother cannabinoid, right, of all the cannabinoids. And so what he did is he made a crumble. Now for the get high people who like to get high and smoke or use not the vapes, I forget, they heat up the thing with a big torch and they put it in there. So what he did is he made this crumble for me, if you can see that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a crumble. Right. So normally people would take that and put that in a high heat torch and a bowl and smoke. I forget the term off the top of my head right now. So he made that for me. And so he said, it's not for smoking, it's for eating. So I'm eating my CBGA. Then on top of that, he gave me this solution. So this is more CBGA. So this is like a fresh one that he just sent me over the weekend, right? And then he made this bath soak. So that right there is 35,000 milligrams of CBGA. Wow. So he started off with, I think, 1,000 milligrams. Then we moved up to 8,000 milligrams. And then now I'm on the 35,000 milligrams. And so that I soak in for 20 or 30 minutes. I put in an ounce into the water. So Dr. Tom, my first day of taking it, no night sweats. Wow. I went from like 100% night sweats down to maybe, like when your leg is on top of your leg and you feel a little moisture, but I wasn't sweating. I wasn't, my wife could roll over and touch me and like, oh my God, my husband's there. He's not swimming. So the CBGA is one of the big things that now, and I'm like, it's great for your intestines. Right. CBG is really good for inflammation, really good for inflammation. And so I've been on this. So, I take a 0.5 gram at night and I eat a 0.5 gram in the morning. I put it in the capsule, swallow it with my food, and then I soak in the bath. And the cytokine storms are gone. Maybe not 100%. Maybe if I stop, they might come back. But I'm in my last week of proton therapy treatment. Great. And so I have this week and then 2 days next week, and I'm done. Trust me. You're doing great. That's unbelievable. But that is amazing. Yeah. That you're doing that treatment. Your symptoms are much less than a normal person. Yes. Yes. So the CBD and the turmeric together for the pain, my pharmacist made me, so there are burns that come with using proton therapy. Right. Oh. And so he made this cream for me. He won't tell me what it is, but he made this cream for me. He's a pharmacist, so he knows how to concoct these things. And so he has helped me literally keep the burns, you know, in my buttocks to almost a bare minimum. And so it's fantastic. Here we've got 2 plants.
Right.
We've taken them away from the people, but yet just in my own experience from chronic pain and now dealing with cancer, they both answer issues in my body and are helping my body to heal.
Without any side effects.
Without any side effects.
Right.
Without
That's the
side
amazing
effects.
thing.
So, I mean, so like I'll take, you know, a half a gram of this syringe, and I wake up in the morning and I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go. I'm ready. Now, there's a lot of fatigue that comes with proton therapy. And they told me as you get closer to the end, it's going to be a whole lot more. So I do nap, you know, between 3 to 6 times a day, 15 to 20 minutes at a time. But again, as I use these products, they are helping me overcome and helping me heal.
But your body's going through a battle in general. Forget
Right.
you know, drowsiness from CBD or
Right.
medication. Your
Right.
body's fighting a cancer right now, and you're
Right.
getting radiation therapy, which
Yes.
is not easy on the body.
No, it's not. Now, and then aside from that, I elected to not do the chemotherapy. They told me it would be a very small dose, but after reading what it does to you, I decided, okay, I'm not going to. And so instead, my pharmacist turned me on to high doses of vitamin C with K3. And so it's like, it's 100 to 1. You know, that's hard for me to wrap my head around. Like, okay, 100 drops of vitamin C to 1 drop of vitamin K3, and it kicks cancer's backside.
Right.
So it had spread from the colon rectal area into the lymph nodes in my left groin. And before I started doing the vitamin C, it was about an inch and a quarter. Now it's just a tiny little ball. You know, I don't know 100% for sure, but I do probably put more weight on the vitamin C and the K3 having done that than the proton therapy. Because under the proton therapy, it didn't feel like it was shrinking. But then all of a sudden, when, you know, like into my 2nd or 3rd week, when I started doing that, it's like all of a sudden, pow! It was like,
radiation
wow.
therapy is very directed for where you're having the issue. So it's really for the anal region. It's not for, like you said, you're right. It's the vitamin C.
Yeah.
Was it the vitamin K3?
K3. Yeah.
The K3, that's what's helping that systemically.
Yeah.
Radiation is truly for local control of something.
Right. Right. So, and then they are blasting both lymph nodes or both groin, left and right groin. And of course the colorectal area, you know, and, you know, all of these medications, these CBD oils, I have CBD with THC. I have some strong THC. Right. I have not used that one. That's pure THC that one of my scientists sent me. And I have not really found a use for it. And I like not being loopy.
Right. But the other thing is this, with all these treatments, right, Dave, how is your weight?
Okay, so I have lost weight. I dropped from 155 to, I bounced back up from 128. I'm about 131, 132. I'm trying to eat more raw foods than meats, but this weekend, you know, I did cave in. I ate some lamb, ate some chicken, ate some steak, had steak Sunday to try and still give myself protein. In my morning, you know, I eat this oatmeal with nuts and hemp hearts, which is where I get a big chunk of some protein from, is from the hemp hearts of all things, hemp. Right. I'm getting my protein from hemp.
Right.
You know, and they're so small. And I'm thinking, how do you crack those seeds to get those hearts out of there?
Right.
Because they're so small. But, you know, that's what's sustaining me throughout the day, you know, and keeping me going. So, yeah, I've lost weight. I've lost quite a bit of weight, but I'm still maintaining. I'm still exercising. Right. You know, I'm still
because the CBD, the THC is not going to suppress your appetite.
Correct.
It's going to help it, if anything.
Right.
And if you weren't taking this, you'd probably be even lost more weight.
Yes. Yes. My pharmacist told me that if I wasn't doing some of the cannabinoids with the THC. I do the one with the low THC. So the worst that I feel is maybe a little heaviness in my eyes, but I can still function, but I still have an appetite. And my understanding is, proton therapy, especially in the area that it is, it will take away your desire to eat. That is
No
one of the
doubt.
side effects. And, I like eating.
Right. That's a good
I
thing.
like eating.
No, but that's even your thought of wanting to eat is part of why CBD THC help.
Yes.
It definitely does. It definitely does.
Yes.
So this pharmacist who you're speaking with, he is a pharmacist, a normal pharmacist.
Yes.
But he's also trained in THC CBD dosing, which you cannot find too often.
He's in Louisiana.
That's unbelievable.
In New Orleans. So he gave up the opioid stuff. He doesn't do that stuff anymore. And so he works. I don't know if you know the name Christopher Robin Hulliger. He's the one who made the breakthrough in nanosizing the CBD molecule. So he and this pharmacist, they've worked with, there's like 1,500 doctors that they work with, and they use his CBD. And a lot of the pharmacists, they come up with these protocols to help cancer patients dealing with cancer. And so this pharmacist, so he's in Louisiana. I've never met him personally. Right. But we speak a lot, we text a lot once I got turned on to him. And, he tells me how to eat, and he tells me what to stay away from. He's phenomenal. And so I don't have the pain cream with me, but he made this cream that literally helps the burning of the flesh to not burn.
Amazing.
And so he's Dr. Jerry Mike Casso, and he has the Casso Wellness Clinic in New Orleans. And so he works with several cancer patients. He also does the ozone treatment. If he wasn't 8 hours away, I would actually go there and try that, because my understanding, I've read one of the medical studies that ozone treatment has a big impact on stopping cancer. Right. And so, yeah, it is. I mean,
I live in Rhode Island. In terms of people that are asking about who do I talk to? Well, I try to help them as much as I can. We don't have a pharmacist. We have 3 dispensaries for medical marijuana. It is not legal THC in this state yet.
Right.
So at the dispensaries are people that talk about their experiences, but to have a pharmacist help you specifically with dosing, it would be amazing if we had somebody around here to do something like that. He's one of a kind.
He is. And I'm beyond blessed to have, these cannabis cancer people on my team who are actually good friends of mine.
Right.
And so one of the other guys, Mike Robinson, he is in this month's High Times Most 100 Influential People. And because he works with a lot of cancer patients as well, he gives away he does a lot of compassion work and gives away a lot of free stuff. I still work, he gives me a good price, but I still, I want to pay for what I can. Right. And then I give him extra money on sometimes so that he can have something extra to give to somebody else.
Right. That's nice.
So
Pay forward.
Yes, exactly. So I'm highly blessed to be surrounded by so many great people to help me with my physical challenges.
You look great. You look healthy, which is great.
Thank you.
You got pink in your cheeks. I mean, those are the important, especially with your treatment.
Yeah. Well, I think the camera is adding 10 pounds. So they say, but when you look at me without clothes, I've got all these little stickers where they've put on my body. They've been on there for almost 8 weeks now, that they use the infrared lights to line up with the beams of the proton, So, CBD, cannabidiol, THC, CBGA, and all these other cannabinoids, and the cannabis and the hemp plant. It's pure medicine.
Right. It's changed your life.
It's pure medicine. It's changed my life as a kid. I don't really sit around and smoke it anymore. I'm
You don't
still
have to now.
hyperactive.
That's the beautiful thing. You don't have to do it like that.
Yeah, right. But funny enough, I'm 58, and I realized like 2 or 3 years ago, I'm still hyperactive. I
You
am
never
still,
change. You never change.
I never change. But you
Right.
know what? This, even CBD, if I take enough, it brings me down to earth a
Mhm.
little bit. I'm not, willing to go out of my skins and go crazy, you know. So
That's great.
I
What a good
love the
story.
plant. The plant is medicine.
Mhm.
And as I was saying, I'm working on my dissertation. One day I believe I'm going to sit in front of Congress and hopefully the Texas state legislature
Mhm.
to speak on letting the plant out of jail and giving it to the people.
Right.
I mean, look, after all, the federal government owns a patent on cannabis.
Is that right? I did not know that.
There is if you Google, and I think it's a CBD patent, and they've had it for like 20 plus years. There is a patent owned by the federal government for cannabis as medicine. You can Google it, you will find it.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to do that.
So, I mean, if there's no medicinal value to these two plants, why does the federal government
Mhm.
own a patent for cannabis medicine?
That's amazing.
And then, I mean, all we got to do is look at PubMed and all the various
Right.
medical
Oh,
research sites.
absolutely.
I've got probably 50
Right.
printed out medical studies of cannabis used in a variety of ways, just for cancer, for pain management, for epilepsy, for indigestion problems, for a variety of physical ailments.
You have a whole bunch of references on you
Yes.
in this book. It's great.
Yes.
And this is from 2019. Who knows?
Yes.
You can search anything now on the internet and you can find some good,
Yes.
reliable studies.
Yes.
shows
There are
that
some
it's helpful.
great studies.
Right.
Yes.
So it's,
Absolutely.
but this is, I have to get back to work.
Yes, I understand.
That's all right. I appreciate, we're going to keep in touch.
Yes,
Again,
absolutely.
to get the book, I guess it's the cbdwriter.com.
It's yes, the cbdwriter.com. You can pick up the book on walmart.com, on barnesandnoble.com. You can also pick it up on Amazon.
Right.
If you get it on Amazon, you get it like the very next day or in
Right,
2 days.
right. But I'm gonna write a little blog on our little website
Nice,
about
thank
getting
you.
because there's a great introduction to start if
Nice.
you're not sure about it.
Nice. And then if they want, on the website, the cbdwriter.com, there's nothing for sale. I'm not going to sell them anything. They can put in their email address.
Mhm.
And so they'll get the checklist for free. They'll get the article, 6 reasons why it doesn't work, so they can kind of find out where they're in place. And then I send them additional stories, and some other doctors that talk about it. Nothing for
Right.
sale.
Right, great.
So if they want that, they can download that for free.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
I'm not trying to sell them anything other than I want them to be educated.
Right, awesome. Dave, I appreciate the time. We
Absolutely.
definitely will keep in touch. I have your information.
Absolutely.
As I've been doing these podcasts, I've been meeting some great people. You're one of them. I love the story.
Thank you.
This is really, I'm so happy we got together. I know you had some,
Yes.
it was tough recently with the family. Everybody's okay with the family. I know you went through a couple of things recently.
Yep.
Everything's okay.
Yeah, I had a couple deaths in the
Right.
family. My younger cousin passed away. My best friend passed away.
Ugh.
My wife now has been diagnosed with enteritis.
Mhm.
And the way we're battling it,
Right.
she's taking the CBD. She's eating the the CBGA
Right,
in
perfect.
the morning. So I give her some of my stuff. She takes a 1/4 gram and helping to reduce that inflammation in there. So
The next time I talk to you on the podcast, that'll be the first thing I ask you, how your wife's doing. I'm sure
Yes,
she's going to be
okay.
doing great.
absolutely. Awesome.
All right,
It was a
Dave.
pleasure
let's
to
keep in
meet
touch.
you.
Same here. All
Yes.
right, nice talking to you. I'll
Nice
talk to
talking
you
to you.
soon.
All right. You take care.
All right, bye-bye.